It's so nice to be here with a product marketing clan. It's almost like going for vacation to your cousin's house, right? So it's all your besties there. And it gets tough to explain product marketing. Is it in product management? Is it in marketing? Now, I've got a core set of people here who understand product marketing. And if there's one topic where we all agree it belongs to product marketing, it's personas and segmentation. And I've done quite a few of these in my career. What I want to share with you are some insights, some learnings. I kind of geeked on it because I like to be analytical and creative. But there's always something basic that we need to understand as we do all of these. So I'm here to share some insights, and I want this to be as interactive as possible. Ask me questions, and we'll get started. Okay, I'm going to start with 2 truths and a lie. I promise you this is going to be the nerdiest slide that you see. Buyer persona is the same as buyer profile. Who in the audience thinks it's a lie? Okay, a few hands. Buyer journeys are not always linear. Is it a lie? This is a smart group. Personas are never static. Come on, it's okay. It's okay to be wrong. Okay, so the winner, the liar here is a buyer persona is the same as buyer profile. I think this is one fundamental thing I want to leave with you all today. We think about buyer profiles. We've got the IT Ivan, marketing Megan. We go and geek out in terms of, okay, what is their profile? What is their demographic? What is their role? What does a day in a life look like? And all those sorts of information. It's a long document. But what buyer persona is kind of a fundamentally different way of looking at it, really looking at the buying aspects. So their role could be something, but how are they really making that buying decision? What is the criteria? How is this being done? What is their journey of buying? So really focusing on the buying aspect is going to be so fundamental. So a buyer persona is kind of think of it as a way of looking at just the buying aspect versus a profile could be just one-dimensional, just looking at multiple attributes. So really getting the thought around buying process is fundamental and foundational. And you all know buyer journeys are not always linear. So you all said it's a truth, so I'm not going to go belabor that point because you could be researching, you could be selecting vendors, you could be doing all of it, right? Last one, we all know things are evolving, nothing is static. We're looking at markets, buyers, things are changing, so personas are not static. I'm going to start with this real example of a buying process with Pokemon cards. That's my son, and I have the legal copyright. I'm not violating. So here he is. His thought process in the buying situation is this Pokemon card real or fake? He's the buyer. Now that's his cousin, and he's the key influencer in the buying process. And he goes saying, always buy from a pack, not online. I still don't get it, but if you're a Pokemon geek and you get it, then that's great. But this is a big influence in how he buys. And that's me and my husband trying to really think about, even though we are financial, economic buyers in this scenario, we're kind of the approvers, we're still thinking about, is it getting scammed? Is trading even okay, right? So, and you have all these amazing platforms that personalize and hyper-personalize and give you all the ads and offers could be any of these vendors, right? So where I want to go with this concept is we see it every day. Buying process, how different stakeholders are involved, and what their needs and wants are from a buying perspective, right? So again, if you look at the title, is it overrated? It's not overrated. Persona and segmentation is not overrated, it's real. Where we want to go is find a fine balance between overdoing it. So who in the audience has done persona research? Whoa, okay. Yeah, I'm going to learn more from you guys. So if you look at B2B buying, obviously sales 17% of the time in the buying journey, sales is getting involved. So there's so much that we want to understand about the buyers. It's going to be important for us. And so, again, I want to go back to the foundation that, yes, it is important. We need to understand the buying process. We need to understand the buyer persona. So now that we have the basics, I think we talked about this point, which is like, when you do your persona research, please make sure that you're looking at the buying aspect. Forget about other aspects. They are not critical as you do a buying persona analysis. Don't make your research a rocket science. I did it when I first did mine. So I took, I want to say, a 30-slide template, and I was meticulously filling every single one of those. And it is really about having a conversation with a buyer who's made a decision and talking about things that really matter. So this is a simple framework. This was done by Buyer Persona Institute. They do a really nice job of kind of having core fundamentals outlined. So if you are in an interview, right, you've got 30 minutes, you've got 20 minutes, you've got 15 minutes. If you want to understand a buying process, I would recommend focusing on these 5 priority initiatives. Literally your buying triggers. Why are they buying? Success factors, it goes beyond the financial success. It could also be the personal success, right? Perceived barriers. It's not just the competition all the time. So I've been in scenarios personally where people have not adopted a particular software because they don't have alignment with the executive team. They're not able to build a business case. So your barriers could be, it need not be on a specific product, right? It could be multiple dimensions. Just keeping an open eye for all of those. Decision criteria, right? So we all want to reduce costs, right? So really zooming in on which aspect of cost, fixed, variable, CapEx, OpEx, really getting that sense of decision criteria is really going to be important. And again, buyer journey, understanding the stakeholders involved, how decisions are being made. So again, this is a very simple framework, so to speak. The most important point that I want to, again, leave with you all is let's not boil the ocean, right? Let's keep it very precise. And when you have a conversation, have an open mind. You don't start with asking these directly, right? So having a way to open conversations and even looking at the type of people that you're interviewing. I made this mistake of saying, I'm going to interview IT, I'm going to interview finance, I'm going to interview operations. Actually, think of flipping it and saying, I'm going to talk to people who are involved in a buying decision. I don't have to think of specific profiles. I want to look at a buying committee. I want to look at people who are involved, go with an open mind, and discover maybe it's not even people in IT that you thought would be involved in this process, right? Research need not be expensive. How many of you have used third parties to do these persona research? Okay, and were they expensive? Yes. One of the consultants, I want to say, I think it was Sirius Decisions, acquired by Forrester. They gave a really good insight. When you do buyer persona, don't try to outsource it, right? And that was important because you have to listen to the buyers as much as you can and unearth all those insights. And from an expensive standpoint, what we have done at our organizations is really think about, if there's an annual conference, can you get 20 minutes, 30 minutes of buyers? If there is a certain QBR, or if there is, even if there's a case study which is being, conducted by your teams, is there a way you could carve out like another 15 minutes after the case study? Because the case study is going to focus more on results, but where we want to go is try and understand the buying behavior, right? So really finding out these, very intuitive ways of connecting with a buyer. So I think that would be, especially with this economic downturn, that could be a good way to kind of keep up to date with what's going on from a buying decision standpoint. Research, if not action, is a waste of everyone's time. I think it's pretty logical. The big thing that I want to leave with is the learnings that we had when we tried to do this buyer persona. The big anxiety was, what if I keep producing these reams of documents that nobody reads, right? So the most critical part in your, if you were to look at an 80-20 rule, I would say, even do your research for 20 and spend the remaining 80 in activating. That's where the value is, right? So you're looking at a buying cycle. You want to really think about how do I align completely with the sales cycle. So that's the whole goal of this. We've done activation workshops. It's a really great way of bringing about people from sales, from marketing, product, multiple facets of the organization, and really aligning on your core value proposition. So really, here's where the need is, here's where our product strengths are, what's that intersection? How can we create that value prop? And in terms of activation, I think from a marketing standpoint, obviously you want to hit the right buyers with the right campaign strategy. You don't want to target people who are not going to be in a buying process. You want to prioritize who the primary buyer is, spend more energy. From a content perspective, obviously, you're looking at top, middle, bottom of the funnel. You want to have education, content resonating with a buyer need, all the way to closing your deal. Sales strategies and playbooks, again, extremely critical. So what we did was really mapping the buyer journey along with the sales journey and thinking about every stage of the sales journey. How can you map it to the buyer journey, what the needs and wants are, right? So it's a little bit of a elaborate process, but it's worth the time, and really making sure that you kind of spoon feed sales. I know Jared was talking about a lot of cool ways to connect with sales, really thinking about having those contents, having those plays right in every stage of the sales cycle. And also, if you have CCS or value selling or any methodologies, really trying to bake that into methodology that the company is using so that it's leveraged. Rethinking a lot of sales assets, even for competitive intelligence. We really took a deep cut into, okay, if I'm talking to IT versus operations, how do we really position our competitive strengths? Because each one has a different need, right? And enabling everyone, including CSMs, marketing, sales side of the house. And this one is kind of a really good one where we looked at the data and we're trying to impact a key business strategy for our company where we're trying to focus on a specific buyer, but we really put the case to kind of go a platform route and have investments in developer. And all the insights that we gleaned from buyer persona was so valuable. So again, think big, make sure that you're activating every part of the organization when you think about these buyer persona research. Don't sweat to constantly update. How often do you guys update your personas? Once a year, okay. Okay, so again, I think making sure, again, all the points that we talked about in terms of if there is an event, if there is probably having if you're even going to do a webinar with one of the customers, that's a great opportunity to kind of learn a little bit. Keeping it up to date on a regular basis, continuously is a better strategy versus thinking about, okay, here's another mega project. Next year, we're going to spend $100,000 on a persona, right? Research, right? So really thinking about those refresh cycles happening automatically versus a conscious effort to reinvent the whole wheel. So I'm going to just pause there. Any thoughts, anything at all from this team on personas before we go to segmentation? I'm going to connect the dots there. Yes.
What's the best 2 or 3 things you've learned from doing activation workshops?
Activation workshops, I think it's not going to be easy, first thing, to get people aligned. So let me rephrase it. First thing I want to say is, who do you invite for your activation workshop, right? So I want to make sure that we're obviously touching sales, product, every part of it. I also want to involve product and sometimes even the support organizations. Sometimes, the way things work, it kind of impacts. So that's one. From an activation workshop standpoint, again, making sure that you have an open mind, even when you go with reams of information, you have an open mind to course correct. If you have a sales input, how do you kind of triangulate back to what the research was, right? So making sure that you're kind of connecting those, I think those will be important. Segmentation, choose attributes that matter. How many of you have employee size and revenue as a segmentation parameters? Oh, okay, not bad. It's just a handful. I think we've gone a long way from number of employees and revenue, right? So really thinking about your business, looking at certain aspects like use cases, number of user seats, complexity. Again, some of the banking software companies that I work with, even though they are smaller, their complexity could be large. So really looking at multiple attributes is going to be important. It's not just the quantity. And this is my favorite, right? Mid-market, we try to segment it so much. And then the biggest challenge is the middle child syndrome, where mid-market keeps shifting to either side so often. Have you all seen this mid-market mess? So again, making sure that it's not the quantity, it's the quality of attributes, and continuously assessing. I'm going to have a few discussion points around this. It cannot be siloed. What do I mean by that? Is segmentation is, a good segmentation does not start and end with sales. And the single point of failure for segmentation, if it's not segmented at sales, right? If there is no sales targets, nobody's going to care. So that, of course, is the first important place where you want to look at segmentation, followed by marketing persona, demand strategies that has to align with how the segment goes to market. On the other side of the equation, I also think support is extremely critical as you go into segmentation. The packages, the models for support for multiple segmentation customers is going to be so different. We kind of lose sight of it because it's all about signing deals. But in specifically large enterprise, complex B2B products, making sure that the implementation and support is seamless is going to be very critical. So having support packages and models aligned with segments is going to be important. And the best case is when you have products which are distinct by segment, right? So the segment could be vertical, segment could be any dimension. But that, if you have a core distinct product, and if you have a sales team, those to me are like the most critical pieces when it comes to segmentation. And making sure that, as you evolve the segmentation, have like an all-in play. Because if, I've been in companies where they started thinking about a segment and they did everything on the marketing side. Okay, different personas, different messages, let's do A/B tests, all of those. But there was nobody in sales to catch that. And it is a complete failure in the model if you don't start with sales. I think it's obvious, but companies still do that. So sales, marketing, support, products, and of course, product. If you have a segmented product, that's perfect. And when you look at segmentation, the flip side is you have, multiple, you have duplicates. So how do you look at a shared service model? Like, creative or pre-sales campaign, legal, all of those are going to be like kind of your shared service model where everything cannot be segmented from a resourcing standpoint. You cannot scale, right? So commit and stay on, change only if buying patterns change. I've been in companies where they wanted to promote someone. So, okay, let's carve this out. Let's make a segment out of it, right? So it's not a decision made by a chief revenue officer. It's not a decision made more internally. It's more an external decision where, when buying patterns change, when there's consolidation in the market, when people are trying to buy adjacent products. So that's the trigger when you want to look at a change, a real trigger versus more internal stuff that I've personally seen in my corporate life. Don't get excited to evolve segments. I think this is interesting. We look at segmentation and we go all in, okay, let's do the geos, let's do the verticals, and so on and so forth, right? I think it's important to really look back and see where is the company evolving. Does it even make sense to do a vertical segmentation at this point in the company, right? So really looking at all of these from where the market is going, where the company wants to invest is important, instead of just hyper-segmenting. Get real with understanding buying process by segment. Here's where the magic happens. If you have the luxury, you go do your buyer persona, you do your segmentation for each segment, you do the buyer persona analysis. Obviously, it's going to be different, the buying patterns, especially you see that in the obvious example of low market and high market. People go online and buy stuff versus it's a highly sophisticated sales with multiple committees making decisions. So really understanding the buying process by segment is going to be that magic. It's going to be complex, but I think that's the way where you kind of bring the two together. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up and say, let's not overthink it. Let's just start, keep it real, and make it actionable. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions.
Thanks, G3. All right, so anyone in the audience wants to raise their hand with a question, or we'll have the slide for Slido up in just a second. Any questions? Yep, we have one over there. Shout it out if you want.
I'm interested to find out if you've ever been surprised by an attribute that came up as being particularly actionable in a segment.
Oh, that's a great question. Any interesting attribute, right?
Yeah, that surprised you. I wouldn't have thought that would make a difference in it.
Oh, I got to think through this. Now, I've been doing this a lot. I'm going to think about it over coffee and meet you. Well, that's a very valid question, right?
Do you want to go? You want to come back to that one later?
Yeah, I think
right.
I'll come back to that later.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, top question here. How would you advise a B2C product marketer to adapt some of your persona segmentation tips?
I don't come from a B2C background, so I might not have a lot of insights into that.
Fair
but
enough.
Going back to my Pokemon example, I think it kind of applies to B2C as well. So, but I don't have a lot of. I've never worked in B2C, so I don't think I'm an expert to answer that question.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. Where should you start from a segmentation perspective if you have an enterprise offering and want to bring it down market?
One more time.
So if you have an enterprise offering, but you're looking to bring it down market, where would you start from a segmentation perspective?
Again, if there is a specific product that they have, that's awesome, right? So if you have created a trimmed down version of a product in SMB, I think that is solid. You have a solid core that you're going to take it to market. But sometimes what we try to do is we kind of take the big gorilla and try to sell it down market. It doesn't work, right? So really, I would say if it's a key market that you want to focus, I think from a product standpoint, it has to be, catered to that market in terms of, what the need is, what the price point, price sensitivity is. And again, going back to the fundamentals, right? The buyer persona, what do they really need, right? So I think that's important. And doing a buyer persona analysis is going to be really insightful. So you can figure out which of the mix you want to change, right? It's the price, it's the product, or promotion, or all of those aspects.
Makes sense. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about and we'll make this. Oh, we're on time. We'll make this our last question here. Can you talk a little bit more about the activation workshops, basically like a TLDR version of how they work and why they matter?
Yeah, I think we answered the question. Activation workshop is a great way to kind of engage other stakeholders. Sometimes in product marketing, it always happens, right? You're doing a lot of stuff, you feel like it's super cool, but then you don't get an adoption into it. I see workshop as a way of connecting building that bridge with other stakeholders in the company, kind of putting forth your research and also getting feedback in terms of how we could do better so there's more adoption. To me, I think adoption is one of the key takeaways when you do a workshop, because it's tough to kind of push certain things. Second thing is, like I told before, it's important to kind of get viewpoints and feedback and bake it into the process again. So if the activation workshop, you might have a few ways of implementing it in sales. For example, I'm going to create playbooks. But as a part of the activation workshop, when we did, one of the great learnings was from salespeople to say, hey, I love all this, let's do all these mapping, but what about my sales process? I follow CCS, I follow value selling. How do we really embrace this in that process? So really, when you sit with stakeholders, it's like the basics of marketing, right? You have to know your audience, what do they need? So you might perceive that sales might need certain things, but hearing directly from them, getting feedback from them, for example, like how do you incorporate CCS or value selling methodology in my process? And so it becomes much more usable, much more, people adopt it more because it's coming from how they will use it. So I think it gives a platform to make sure that everybody can weigh in on how to really activate it, because you come from a consultant point of view, but it's more like people who are in the business, that they know how it works, and it's important to have that dialogue going.
Nice, I love that. Yeah, I think a lot of times you might involve other departments to create the personas, but in terms of activating it and like how you take them and actually then kind of activate it across the company, it's really important.
And
I like that
don't
approach.
disrupt what was going on. I think that's the magic rule, right? If you've been doing a few things, how can you kind of interweave in what they're doing versus just changing, okay, from the next deal, read this cheat sheet on personas. It's never going to work, right? So we want to find intelligent ways of weaving it into how they're doing their operations. So I think that's key.
Awesome. So are they overrated? Answer is...
I think personas are real. Segmentation is real. What is overrated is a process, and we're just over-engineering it. What I would say is make it continual, make it insightful, make it actionable, right? So really doing, like, if you have a chance to meet one of the buyers for 15 minutes, take that opportunity. Just have a conversation on, hey, why are you buying it? Who was involved in it? What's your goal on this? You might be surprised. I've heard a lot to answer your questions on attributes. What's your goal? And I've had someone tell me it's not like improving CSAT, reducing costs, none of those. It was like, I want to create my impact in the organization. And it's just a personal goal. To me, that was one of those attributes that I kind of learned. It was like, whoa, okay. So it's like, I want to make this change. I want to have that sphere of influence. I'm up for promotion, or maybe, right? So that were some of those interesting nuggets.
Nice. Awesome. Well, everyone give it up for G3.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.